Amma Namaste. Thank you for coming. Welcome to one more week. Welcome. Amma Namaste. Amma Namaste. We're going to start today with our new book, The Universal and Kabbalistic Meditations on the Lord's Prayer by Master Choa Kok Sui. Finally starting on this book. We did a video on the introduction on it, what we were going to cover, and today is our first day starting it, so welcome. Let's do a quick invocation before we begin. To the Divine Supreme and Absolute God, we thank you for your good blessings. To my spiritual teacher, all spiritual teachers, holy angels, holy masters, to all the saints, holy angels, and all the great ones, we thank you for your divine and priceless blessings. With help and in full faith, so be it, and so it is. Thank you. Okay, shall we? So, we start Universal and Kabbalistic Meditations. So, the title of the book, Universal and Kabbalistic Meditations on the Lord's Prayer. So, the Lord's Prayer is given by the Lord Christ, right? In the New Testament. You can find it in Matthew. It's right there. Also, but it says, but the name of, so that's the Lord's Prayer that is using. So, what is it about? Why do we have a book about that prayer? Most people, most Christians know that prayer. A lot of non-Christians know that prayer or know about it. But what is so special about it that there is a whole book on it? And the word Kabbalah is in it. So apparently, according to the author, right, there's meditation on that prayer using the tree of life that we studied in the last book as well, right? Now, the universal section, as we said in the previous video, the universal section is the first part of the book. The second part of the book is the Kabbalist meditation. So first is the universal meditation. Why? Because we know that the Sephiroth, right here on the tree of life, are the chakras on the body, right? There are, according to the author, there are 11 major chakras on the body, not just 7. And why not only 7? Because no one ever said there were only 7, right? They said there are 7 chakras. No one said there are only 7 chakras. So there are actually, according to different traditions, even southern India or in the Chinese Taoist tradition, you would see different major energy points or chakras that correspond to different acupuncture points, and they also correspond to other energy centers. And so the author talks about that the same, and they correspond also to the Kabbalistic Sephiroth in the Tree of Life. So, so the universal meditation, they say the meditation on the Lord's Prayer, on the universal aspect, is basically, let me go there, is just showing you where they are on the body, where those chakras are in the body, and what it is. And the same chakra or energy center on the Kabbalistic section, the Kabbalistic meditation on the Lord's Prayer, is just using where it is in correspondence to the Tree of Life. Yeah? Okay. So, I think the preface was done by Mr. Anthony Cohen, a great man. If you guys can assist any of his lectures, please do so. He's an amazing student of the way. He is. He used to be, when he wrote this, he used to be a priest for the Catholic Church. And Master Choa, I remember, asked him to do a preface for his book. And And but he's amazing, an amazing person, amazing soul. So if you have a chance, if you ever see one of his workshops or anything by him, please do go. So he's really a special person. Hi, Anthony, just in case you're seeing this. There's a disclaimer, like with most of Master Choa's books. I'm gonna read it just so that we know. It says the physical and psychological conditions of each person vary. Therefore, if adverse effects are experienced, please immediately stop the practice of this meditation. For detailed information, please read the section on caution in chapter 1 before doing the meditation. The author and publisher will not be held liable for any adverse effects caused by the practice of the meditation on the Lord's Prayer. It's a very powerful meditation, so do follow those cautionary points in chapter 1. Now, we covered the contents before, so we're just going to go straight to part 1, preparation, right? And chapter 1, general concepts and principles. And on page 4, if you turn to page 4 in your book and at home, the first thing that it says is a system for spiritual development. So this is very interesting because it's a meditation, but it by itself is saying that it's a system for spiritual development. What is a system? A system is a group, right?
Complex,
a complex,
multifaceted.
It's a complex, multifaceted process that is made up, right, by different already many parts, and each part by itself it could be techniques. There is already a developed process or a developed technique or a developed teaching. It's already it's structured by itself, and all of these together form a system, right? So it says, this meditation on the Lord's Prayer, Universal and Kabbalistic versions, is a system for spiritual development. It's a what? A system for spiritual development, which uses the energy centers of the body. So it in itself is covering several things so that you can achieve spiritual development. A spiritual development is not one-pointed. It's not that you stand on your head for 3 hours a day and you become spiritually, aware. It's a multifaceted system. You need many facets. It's something that goes physically, emotionally, mentally, right, and spiritually. It's varied. And what this is claiming is that it covers is that it's a system for spiritual development. This meditation alone. Let's see why. These energy centers are called, right, and it uses the energy centers of the body, like we just said. These energy centers are called chakras by the yogis, and sephiroth, plural for sephira, by the Kabbalist. Though through the practice of this meditation, the chakras or energy centers are cleansed, energized, and activated. Chakras are energy vortices, which have physical, psychological, and spiritual functions. They have what functions?
Spiritual,
Physical, psychological, and spiritual. So we said, right? When we just said that the spiritual development has to be done physically, emotionally, right? And emotion and thoughts are psychological, right? It's encompassed in psychological, emotional, and thoughts, right? And spiritual functions. So the chakras are beings, and they have these type of functions. They encompass all those functions. So the sequence in activating the chakras is important. What is important? The sequence
for activating
the chakras. This is very important. It should be done from the top going down. The higher chakras should be activated first. in order to regulate the lower chakras. Some people pray the Lord's Prayer mechanically, like a tape recording. However, this book presents the Lord's Prayer in such a way that the meditator will go through each phrase deeply, and in the process activate the spiritual centers or chakras. Now, in many systems, you will see that sometimes they start from the bottom, from the lower chakras, and move their way to the higher chakras. But the author is talking about that it should be done in reverse. It should be not in reverse, but it should be done first the higher and then the lower. Why did he say that?
To bring in divine energy down.
The higher chakras should be activated first in order to regulate the lower chakras, to regulate the lower chakras for safety, but also to regulate them. Why? The lower chakras are the ones sometimes that stress comes from the lower chakras, or certain desires, or even sexual desire, or many other things, right? So the lower chakras, and not only for emotions or thoughts, but also even physical, physical movements, etc. So the higher chakras are there, right? If they are activated first, they can regulate and let's say put order, right, in the lower chakras. So as you're going down, it's easier to meditate. It's easier to, the whole process, and also for safety. So, but you would see in many practices this happens, right? They activate the lowers first, and then the higher. And why is that? It's because the teaching is not giving fully or completely, or sometimes it is given quietly. Sometimes they may invoke at the beginning, or they may do something that will activate the higher chakras. So they may do some asanas or some breathing exercises that they may already be activated in the higher chakras, but they don't talk about them. So the teaching is not given completely to safeguard the teaching and the power of the teaching, right? Because so the people don't become too powerful too quickly. So
like the Ganesh
correct,
transmutation.
correct, like the Ganesh symbology, and the reason is because for a long time this was the case. So you had to be part of a school in ancient times for a lifetime in order for you to be given the secrets later on. And what you learn, it was tweaked so that you can use it later in a better way, or more powerful secrets were revealed towards the end. So, but they needed to make sure that there was purification, that there was all these things. So, all right. Some other versions of the meditation on the Lord's Prayer use 7 chakras. This system uses 11 chakras. It is important to remember that the truth is dynamic, not static. In ancient times, people believed that there were only 5 planets plus the sun and the moon, and from these came the names of the 7 days of the week, right? Like Monday, moon; Tuesday, like if you go from in Latin, Mars, right? Marte. Then is miércoles. Wednesday is Mercury. Jueves or Thursday is Jupiter, and Friday or Viernes, Venus, right? And then Saturday is Saturn. Sunday is the Sun. But that was many, many years ago. With the discovery of modern science, we now know that there are at least 9 planets plus the Sun and the Moon. If you count Pluto now is a planetoid, right? So similarly, in the Kabbalistic tree of life, there are 10 Sephiroth plus 1 hidden Sephirah, which makes a total of 11 centers. Moreover, the real locations of the 11 Sephiroth or chakras had never been publicly revealed before. It is only this book and the pranic healing books written by the same author that revealed to the public the existence and real locations of the 11 chakras. This is true. I don't know nowadays, but for sure, this is really, this author is the one that has revealed to the public where these 11 centers are. In as far as the Sephiroth go. So the descent of spiritual energy and the awakening of the Kundalini fire. And how does he reveal them? Well, basically here he shows you all the chakras, and as well when he does the universal, and when you compare the universal and Kabbalistic sections, you will see the difference. Or you can just also see the previous videos in the books from before that we just read before, which is the spiritual essence of man, the chakras, and the inverted tree of life. That one which also has it. So the descent of spiritual energy and the awakening of the Kundalini fire. With regular practice of this meditation, there is tremendous downpouring of spiritual energy into the crown chakra. Then down to the area near the base of the spine where the Kundalini fire is awakened. Together, the spiritual energy and Kundalini fire go up to the crown, eventually manifesting as illumination, bliss, and divine oneness, which is usually experienced by most saints of all religions. What is experienced by most saints in all religions? Illumination, bliss, and divine oneness. Seem to be different things. Huh? Okay. So, why does it say tremendous downpouring of spiritual energy? Through this system, right, of this meditation, it's not just downpouring of spiritual energy, it's tremendous. It's a lot of energy. Now, as we learned in the previous book, right, the Kundalini fire will be when there is a downpour of spiritual energy, or of a certain degree, the Kundalini energy is awakened. This dormant energy near the base of the spine that is awakened only by spiritual energy. Clear? Yes or no? So the spiritual energy is the only thing that can awaken the Kundalini, dormant Kundalini energy inside our system. This is very important because it's only awakened by that. So, because of this, okay, do you guys want to know why it is? It says here, together the spiritual, together, right, together, the spiritual energy and Kundalini fire go up to the crown, correct? As the spiritual energy goes down, it also comes back up along with the Kundalini energy. Do you guys want to know why after it goes back up is when you why it manifests as illumination, bliss, and divine oneness, and why this is experienced by the saints?
After it goes back up, um, because you're going back home.
Yes, but the thing is that we still sometimes have trickles of Kundalini energy. People still have trickles of Kundalini energy going, being awakened. When it's a huge downpour, right, it is a greater, so let's say it is very rare that a person that does this meditation for the first time, or even just people that are just beginning to meditate, that doesn't mean it's impossible, right? Because a person could be already very advanced from previous lifetimes, but that it just happens on the first day, right? That they experience all these things. It can happen, yes. But what happens? What does it say? It talks here about saints of all religions. Generally, saints are people that are very good, wise, right? And they have already been in the spiritual path, or they have, true, like a true conviction from the heart. They're doing everything from the heart. But the thing is that there's an upgrade. The Kundalini energy upgrades your brain and your system, your bodies. It upgrades your bodies and your brain to be able to experience. Because what happens is that these experiences may already be happening to the person, or even from the first time that they meditate, but the brain, over time, over repeated, um, bathing in the spiritual and Kundalini energies, is upgraded. So as this upgrade happens, the brain, right, allows the person to experience more and more higher spiritual experiences, having higher spiritual experiences. It creates the connections that are there. I mean, the person can already be experiencing them, but at this level, at the physical level, it's harder, right, to having that experience. So the brain creates those connections for subtle energies and having these experiences. So that's why it says that together, when the spiritual energy and Kundalini energy fire go up to the crown, eventually manifesting, eventually is the key. So why eventually? Because it takes time for the upgrade to happen. So eventually manifesting as illumination, bliss, and divine oneness, which is usually experienced by most saints of all religions. The downpouring of spiritual energy is called baptism by spirit. And the awakening of the Kundalini fire is called baptism by fire. This is the meaning of baptism by spirit and fire. Therefore, this meditation on the Lord's Prayer, Universal and Kabbalistic versions, is simple, easy, and yet very powerful. In yoga, this spiritual experience is called samadhi, and in Buddhism, it is called nirvana. When this is achieved through the grace or blessing of a guru, it is called Shaktipat, or spiritual empowerment. In esoteric terminology, this is called initiation, which usually results in a certain degree of expansion of consciousness. So, I don't know if I should explain all this, but okay, easy, right? So, baptism by fire. What does baptism mean? Baptism means cleansing, right? And blessing. So, it is, you are being cleansed and blessed and cleansed by spirit, right? So that's baptism by spirit, by spiritual energy. What is spiritual energy? What's another word when we learned from the previous book? Spiritual energy is energy with consciousness. So basically, this energy with consciousness, anything with consciousness, it's alive. It's what?
Alive.
Alive. That's why it is said it's the Holy Spirit. The downpour of the Holy Spirit, downpour of spiritual energy, downpour of energy with consciousness. What consciousness? Divine consciousness. So, spiritual energy with consciousness, very powerful. Downpour of spiritual energy, It's also known as baptism by Spirit or the Holy Spirit, right? Baptism by Spirit. And the awakening of the Kundalini energy is baptism by fire. Why? Because as it awakens and the energy goes up along with the spiritual energy, you are being also baptized or cleansed. Your entire system is being upgraded. You are changing. You're not the same as like when you're baptized in the Christian tradition. You go into the water, you come out new, right? You go in and you come out a new person, right? So you're baptized. The same happens by baptism by spirit and baptism by fire. You are renewed. You are a new being, right? So you're new completely. So all these fire and all this spirit is completely um, um, upgrading you or changing you in a better way.
So, is it by spirit when it's a downward cycle and by fire when it's the upward cycle?
It's more like downpour and then going back up.
Right.
Yeah, when it's by spirit is when it's coming down, pouring of spiritual energy, and by fire when it's coming up. Now, it's really more like a spiraling upward faction, like the columns or spirals of fire. Yeah. So
like the drilling in and then drilling out. No?
I don't know. um, I don't know. I cannot talk about that at this time, but it is a spiral motion up and down. But yes, you can say like a drill. That's why you see in the I don't know if I have a book there on meditation on the Hindu system, but that's why you see the no just a blue meditation book. The big one is Hindu, maybe for yoga. Maybe Hinduism. That one. Yes, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so here, do you see this book? This is a good book by Harish Johari. Do you see how here you see the spirals on the? I don't know if you can see. You see the spirals? Yes, they're going up and down, like the DNA, like you say, right? Actually, good that you say DNA. So these spirals are going up, and you have a center channel, right, in the middle, that's piercing through the chakras, and then you have these other channels that are going around.
Cleansing.
So no, it's not cleansing or just it's what it is that you have. These are called nadis, right, or energy channels. In Sanskrit, nadis, right, energy channels. So this is Shushumna and Pingala nadis and Shushumna nadi. So sorry, Ida, Pingala, and Shushumna. Shushumna is the one in the center, and then Pingala is the one that goes on the right side, but ends on the left nostril, and then Ida is the one that goes on the left side and ends on the right nostril. So it's not only right or left, but is that type of energy. The yang energy is the Pingala, the Ida is the yin energy. And so as you see that it goes like this, I just passed the book so you guys can see the front. As you see that it goes like this, it really doesn't go like this. Look at me. It doesn't go like this only. What it happens is that it actually goes like this. But when you look at it from the front, it looks like it's going like that, right? But in reality, it's just going like this, right? So this motion, but when you look at the front, they look just crisscross because you're not seeing it in 3D. So it's really like that, like the caduceus of Hermes. So, which is the symbol for medicine. It's okay, you can keep it there. Okay, so why did we start with that? Okay, so yes, we said it was like that. This is the meaning of the business of spirit. Therefore, this meditation on the Lord's Prayer, Universal and Kabbalistic, is simple, easy, and yet very powerful. So it says in yoga, the spiritual experience. What is spiritual experience? He's talking specifically about where is it? About bliss. I don't know where it is, but he's talking specifically about bliss, divine oneness, right? And an illumination. In yoga, that is called samadhi in Sanskrit, right? And which is also in that book. You'll see that. And in Buddhism, it's called nirvana, achieving nirvana, or illumination, or divine oneness, right? That union, blissful union. So, and then that feeling with that is achieved via a guru, he says that's called a spiritual empowerment. And that's the terminology and he says in esoteric terminology it's called an initiation. But he says something very important. He says which usually results in a certain degree of expansion of consciousness. Why does he say this? It's because when you're talking about initiation, it's not like you achieve that and that's it. It's like you achieve that and there's like an expansion of consciousness, certain degree of expansion of consciousness. So once that's achieved, and it can be, it can be experienced again and again. Like if you have achieved a certain level, right? And that's why it's called like an initiation, because you went through it. So you have achieved a certain level once you even experience it that once. With that expansion of consciousness, you achieved a certain level. And then over time, in esoteric terminology, right, it takes some time for you to really experience something. You can continue expanding and expanding, but over time you'll get to a point where it's another beyond, an experience that was beyond what you had been experiencing, even if it was a constant expansion. That is very great, and that is then another initiation, or a second initiation, or something like that. And then it's not like every time it's an initiation and you have like 20,000, 500 million, trillion, whatever. Is that there is like a degree of expansion of consciousness. Then you reach another degree, and so forth, and so forth, and so on. Right? So, but why is he giving you all these names? Is so that you're aware that it's all the same, no matter where you go, no matter the different traditions, they're all the same. So when you hear a spiritual empowerment, when you hear Shaktipan, when you hear initiation, it's all that. And believe me, knowing that is very valuable, because when you just study, especially if there's no practice involved, or even if there's practice involved, but you're studying several different books from several different traditions, when you hear these different terms, then you start to wonder, well, is this initiation? How is this? Or what is that? Or I think it's just like a this, or then you start wondering, well, what is this terminology? Here it's just, it's just telling you once and for all, so that you can have like it's like a dictionary for different languages, and you can just say the same word means this in all these languages. So that's that. Very valuable piece of information, in my opinion. Okay, so then it says the awakening of the Kundalini fire can be done through many methods, one of which is the practice of certain techniques in Hatha Yoga or Chinese Qi Gong. Right? So, here the author is saying Then the Kundalini fire, which is important, right, is what we want, can be done through many methods. One of which is the practice of certain techniques in Hatha Yoga or Chinese Qigong. What is Hatha Yoga? It's different types, there are different types of yoga. Yoga means union, right? Union with God, specifically, when it's used like this. And so Hatha Yoga is one of these practices, and it's generally the one that you see mostly here, that is practiced here in the States or in different places here in the American continent, Europe, etc. Of course, it's practiced in India. But this is what when people think of yoga, they're thinking of specifically on Hatha Yoga, and more specifically on just one aspect of Hatha Yoga, which is the asanas, which are the postures. You see people; those are parts of Hatha Yoga, right? And so it's one of the 8 different methods for enlightenment. So, because Hatha Yoga is a whole system, and it has first the asanas, right? So cleansing the body to cleansing the energy centers or the nadis so that the energy can flow, and to the activation of different chakras as you're doing different poses, etc., etc. It's very deep in their practice, and that is just one part. And you have the pranayama aspect, which is the breathing and so forth, and then you have the dharana and dhyana, concentration and awareness, etc. And so, and then you have at the end you have samadhi, which we just heard, which is the union aspect, and then you have different types of samadhi, and like that. So it's a very complete system, very broad system. Generally, people just see the positions or the asanas, the postures, but there's much more than just that. But that's why, in the same for qigong, you see people generating energy. And also people when they see qigong, it's generally very static, but people see more like the tai chi qigong aspect, which is also the movements. But qigong is a lot of breathing techniques and meditation. So the author is saying that that one way is a practice of certain techniques in Hatha Yoga and Chinese Qigong, and another method is the use of mantras or words of power, together with yantras or visual images. Yantra is in Sanskrit means machine. What does it mean?
Machine.
Machine. So these machines, right, and it says here visual images. What is visual images? Because they will do like certain geometrical shapes, right, and that are specific or symbolic or a specific energy, right, like a triangle, fire, and then they're like different triangles, one smaller than the other, inside one another, and with different signs and symbols and whatnot. And so those are yantras to evoke certain energies in the practitioner. So they call them, it's like machines. They're like spiritual machines for spiritual, for like they're tools for your spiritual development, right? So they're like machines that are like spiritual machines for your spiritual development. But they're like visual images that are drawn and that are used for meditation. And to awaken the Kundalini fire, right? So there are many other methods, but in this book, the technique of bringing down spiritual energy to awaken the Kundalini fire is much safer, easier, and also much more potent. More potent. This technique has been practiced by ancient advanced Taoist yogis and other great yogis from different systems, cultures, and countries. The word yogi refers to anyone who is seriously practicing spiritual cultivation. So, yogi comes from yoga, right, which is a Sanskrit word. But here, the spiritual teacher or the author of the book is using it as a word that refers to anyone who is seriously practicing spiritual cultivation. What does it mean by seriously? Not just a weekend warrior or someone that is just doing this like this, but he's talking about someone that is serious about spiritual cultivation, right? Okay. So, and that's why he says that this technique has been practiced by ancient advanced Taoist yogis and other great yogis from different systems, cultures, and countries. So, wait a second. If this is a Kabbalistic tree of life, what does the authors say that this has been practiced by different, advanced yogis from different cultures? Because it's the order. All he's talking about here is the order as to what chakras are activated first and what chakras are activated second, and so forth and so forth and so on. So this order, right, and this system of meditation has been found in many different traditions, not only in the Kabbalistic tradition, not only in the Taoist tradition, but in several traditions. And so I think that one of the things that is very powerful is understanding. What do I mean by that? Because if you have the understanding, right? If you have the understanding, you have sorry. So if you have the understanding, you know how things work. Like this. Do you know why it's important to awaken the Kundalini energy and all these different traditions, right? Make it preoccupy themselves with seriously doing this in a safe way, or in any way. Some are not safe. This is the truth. But why they're so adamant about doing this? You think it's just to upgrade themselves and their brain so that they can have greater experiences? No, because you just to have an experience, you must be having it. It's not like you're imagining it. To experience it is because it's happening. That's why it's called an experience, number one. But number two, it's not only that. That's just one of the many things that the Kundalini does. Another thing is the building of the Antakarana, or the bridge of light, right? That goes from your crown to your soul. So this bridge of light has to be built every lifetime. We spoke about this in the previous book that we read. So if you guys want to check it out, please check out the previous videos for a better explanation. So Antakarana, right, another Sanskrit word, means bridge of light. As I said in the previous video, there's also an initiation in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition called the bridge builder initiation. I obviously won't go into the initiation because I can't. But if you just think about the name of the initiation, the bridge builder, you're building a bridge to what? To your soul, to enlightenment, to nirvana, right? To freedom, to your true nature, to yourself. And that has to be done every lifetime. How do you do that? By awakening the Kundalini. Helps on that. So we need that. Now, is this safe? Yes, it's very safe, as I said, and as the author says, and I can say this from experience also. I'm corroborating also. I do agree. It is definitely, this is safe in comparison to many other systems and techniques. I'm not saying all, because obviously, I haven't done all, but it is definitely, but some that I have tried from these different systems, this is very safe in comparison. And if the author says it, I believe the author and my spiritual teacher 100%. So if it says it's much safer, easier, and also much more potent than these other ones, I would take that as so. All right. So let me see how we're doing. Okay. So then it continues on page 6, baptism by water and baptism by spirit and fire. And the author asks, what is the difference between baptism by water and baptism by spirit and fire? In baptism by water, the body of water is first purified and sanctified. Is purified and sanctified. Then the whole body of the person is immersed, the whole physical body of the person is immersed into the sanctified water. The aura and chakras, which are usually quite dirty, are spiritually purified, right? While using ordinary meditations, will usually take months or years to cleanse the aura and chakras. So, in baptism by spirit and fire, the spiritual practitioner, who is ready, right, in quotes, is given Shaktipat or spiritual empowerment, which results in the descent of spiritual energy and the awakening of the Kundalini fire. To come in contact with a spiritual teacher who can give baptism by water and later baptism by spirit and fire is indeed rare and a great blessing. This is true.
How does a teacher give baptism by spirit?
So, if you remember in the previous page, it says one of the ways of calling that, of what he was talking about here, there's the bliss and divine oneness, etc., right, and illumination. One of those is called spiritual empowerment or Shaktipat, right? So it depends on the teacher and it depends on the system. Sometimes the sister, the teacher, the guru would pat the person somewhere in a specific center, right? Generally in back heart or different places, right? So that tap, depending on the tradition of being a different center, that tap will be infused with a blessing with energy. This should be done by a guru or a teacher. Do not try this at home. So, and then this, as it says here, this spiritual empowerment results in the descent of spiritual energy and the awakening of the Kundalini fire. Now, understand that it says here, in baptism by spirit and fire, the spiritual practitioner who is ready. So the guru, if it's a living guru, it will discern if the spiritual practitioner is ready, and if it's ready, it will get an empowerment or a Shaktipat.
And the Kundalini, the baptism.
And sometimes the empowerments don't have to even be by touch. I'm sorry?
And the by fire is through Shaktipat also?
Yeah. So it says here, by spirit and fire, right? What that means is that by
The one triggers the other.
correct, because by that Shaktipat, right?
Doing this.
Whether it is here or back here or wherever, because it depends on different ones. By that Shaktipat, right? It brings down immense spiritual energy, a tremendous amount, and that awakens the Kundalini energy. That's why it's called an empowerment. It's because it's empowering the person. It's filling it with power. So this empowerment brings down spiritual energy and awakens the Kundalini energy of the person. So that's why sometimes it's done in initiations, it's done in or whatever, or when the guru thinks that the student is ready. But to find but according to the author here, right, to come in contact with a spiritual teacher who can give baptism by water and later baptism by spirit and fire is indeed rare and a great blessing. Why? Because spirit by water, you still have to purify and sanctify that water. Not many can do that, right? So, and you're doing all of them. In the Christian tradition, the water is done all the time, right? And what it is if you scan the water, when if you go to a baptism, right, in the Christian tradition, you scan, you can see there's a lot of divine energy in the water, right? So then, so that's that. So that's how it is. So that's baptism by water, baptism by spirit, and fire. And where do these come from? These come from the Bible. That's why he's talking about baptism by spirit and fire, because that comes from the Bible, from the Christian sacred text. The same by water. Now, can this be achieved through the meditation? Yes, it says here that eventually through constant practice, right, you can achieve tremendous downpour of spiritual energy, right? Right here on page 5. It says with regular practice. With what practice? Regular practice of this meditation, there is tremendous downpouring of spiritual energy into the crown chakra, then down to the area near the base of the spine, where the Kundalini fire is awakened.
What is a safe age to begin this meditation?
I'm glad you asked that question. Safe age to begin the meditation. This is in the cautions, I believe, is stipulated there on page 14. But if it's not, it's from 18 to 18 years old, 18 to 60. Again, here should be on page 14. Here it is at the beginning. It is preferable that the people who are going to use this system of meditation should be about 18 to 60 years old. In general, the body at that age can already withstand more subtle energies. Before 16, 18, the chakras are not fully yet formed, right? And after 60, they're already, sometimes it's hard, not as malleable, so it's hard for them sometimes. Now, there are always exceptions. If the person has practiced throughout their life, it's different. They can continue after 60 years old to do this meditation. But it says in general, the body at that age can already withstand more subtle energies. However, there are exceptions. Yes? There are people below age 18 who are highly evolved souls. These advanced souls have big chakras and can start doing the meditation even at a younger age. There are also people above age 60 whose bodies are healthy and can withstand the subtle energy generated by the meditation. Excuse me, okay? So, but we will cover that next week. So, on page 7, comes on page 7 is a meditation in the Lord's Prayer, activating the chakras and awakening the Kundalini. That's the next section. We're going to leave it for next week. And in this section, by then, everybody should have their book, so I won't be reading. So we won't be reading along. But we'll be. So I want you guys to read, right, if you can, the chapter, and I'll go over it, right, so that we don't have to do the read along thing. Excuse me. And so here in this section, they'll talk about each phrase in the Lord's Prayer, like Our Father, who art in heaven, holy be thy name, etc., etc. And then we'll get to the caution section, right? And that will be the end of chapter 1. And then chapter 2 will be physical and inner purifications, which is important to do this meditation. And again, this is why it is like a system. It has its cautionary marks, as the inner purification, because it's not only meditation. Spiritual practice is not, as we said, about just meditating. It's about doing many things that affect your physical health, emotional health, mental health, spiritual health, right? So that's why you have physical purifications and inner purifications that have to do with the virtues, being virtuous, etc., etc., and all that. So, let's leave that for next week. So we'll should finish chapter 1 next week, and maybe we can, if it all goes well, maybe we can start with chapter 2. Okay. So, any questions before we close? If you have any questions, please leave your comments below, like and subscribe, and thank you for coming and joining us today. I hope you got something. You got a lot out of it today. So, without further ado, let's close and give thanks for all the blessings received. To the Divine Supreme and Absolute God, to my spiritual teacher, to all spiritual teachers, holy angels, holy masters, to all the saints, spiritual helpers, and all the great ones, we humbly invoke for your divine guidance, divine help, and illumination. We thank you for your priceless blessings, for your presence in this session, for your love, for the priceless teachings, for the knowledge, the understanding, for the protection, the guidance, the help, and illumination. With thanks and full faith, so be it, and so it is. Thank you. Amma Namaste. Thank you for coming. Amma Namaste. Amma Namaste. So thank you, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.